Hello guys, so today I want to talk about the mechanics of wording, which is often overlooked in many circumstances, and not a lot of pros and casters actually talk about the mechanics and details of wording. They do emphasize the importance of vision, but they don't go into detail or teach you how to, where to word and when to word and such. And of course, they don't do a lot of other stuff like when it comes to teaching as well, because the responsibility is to entertain you. And there are a lot of posts or forums out there of videos that really teaches you about the mechanics and details of wording and knowing when to word and such. So I just decided that I should make a video about the mechanics of wording. I've been a support main since season 3, and I started playing other roles during season 5. I'm not very high elo, I'm low plat, so this is mostly a video for low elos, maybe gold to silver. And if you're challenge jewel or you're diamond or maybe high plat, you probably know all these already. So accept my humbleness, and I hope I don't sound like I know everything, because there are probably mistakes in this video, and feel free to correct me in the comments or such. So anyway, let's go into the actual learning process. So I'm assuming that you know where to word, and that's not hard to find out. You can look up the places to word on Google. It's pretty easy to find, and there are a lot of resources, I believe. But it is knowing about when to word and what places would be appropriate for the circumstances. So there's passive and aggressive wording, and aggressive wording is obviously when you word deep. So maybe like here or here, like so. This is my team, and deep wording might be just wording around these places. Or if you want to go a little more extreme, you can word at a base, depending on the circumstance. And passive wording is when you word at your base, and these are all pretty much basic knowledge. But it is knowing when to passive or aggressively word. So for example, if you have a tower right here, and your team is behind, and there are no more towers left on this lane, no more towers left on this lane, and there are only 3 things that the enemy team would do. So this is my base. I'm gonna put me right here. Me. Alright, it's really creepy me. But they're either gonna go to Baron, or they're gonna do Dragon if it's up, or they're gonna siege out your base. Siege out this tower to get it, because it's the easiest tower on the map right now. Easiest objective. Of course you want to ward Baron. Be a good boy and ward Baron. Have you want your teammates ward Baron. This is very common knowledge. Or Dragon. You know when they're gonna contest Dragon, and you have the Dragon timer pretty accessible right now. Because of the new changes. And so of course they're not gonna group as 5-man and just all the way siege into your lane like that. Usually it gets a little bit more complicated, and they probably have 1 or 2 persons sieging this lane, and and maybe two more people sieging this lane, or not really sieging, but clear out, shove it, and then cut through this jungle and group at this tower and get to the tower. And of course, if you have no vision of this area, it is very, very easy for them to get this tower, because you can't get past this area. I should get another color pen, but whatever. So you can't get past this area because you have absolutely no vision here. And it's very, very dangerous for you. You could get flanked really easily if you have no vision here. So that is when you should know to ward this area. So usually it's pretty common sense. You ward here, or you ward here, and you ward here, or maybe here. But when to ward. So you wanna usually you can predict when they're coming. Usually if you have 2 people, shoving. If they're 1 person shoving this lane, chances are they're not gonna do Baron. It's too far away, and it's hard to group. And if they do Baron as 4-man, you can just easily, catch up and flank them, or do a big comeback or something from Baron fight, and they're not stupid. So if they have one person shoving here, or it seems like they're gonna cut through, they're gonna start sieging this tower. When they're at this area, maybe fucking around in this area right here, or anywhere but this jungle, you wanna start warding. I know that you might be like, they're not here yet. What's the point of warding? You're wasting the ward. No, you're not. You're setting up the area for potential siege on yourself. And that's really a mistake that a lot of people make. They don't like wooding areas where people aren't there because they don't see far enough. And some supports make the mistake of always wooding when events are happening. So if the enemy are around the Baron area, the support would want to face check and wood the area for. And usually it does happen, and it's understandable because sudden Baron sieges are I don't know if siege is the word. So sudden Baron fights are very very common, and there's no way you could predict that and ward that beforehand. But in all the cases where they're dancing around this area and your support make the mistake of go warding to provide vision because you had no vision to begin with, and that's when he or she gets caught. And I see this so much, and a lot of supports who doesn't ward an area beforehand usually make that mistake. And those are usually not very good supports, no offense. They ward reactively, which is a very very big mistake. Sorry for that. It was random. But anyway, so they're gonna cut through here and they're gonna come here, most likely. And they're gonna be active around this area. And you had it warded beforehand, like, oh, I got you, I see you, I see you. And that's when you can come to around the tower and defend the tower without being scared because you know exactly what they're doing here. Or you can flank and catch out, whichever is very very helpful. Or if you're sieging, and usually there's circumstances for sieging, for you can siege mid, top, or bot, and there's usually a reason. So sometimes when you siege bot for this outer turret, and it's the only turret that's left, so this turret is gone, and these turrets are gone, and you're sieging bot. And of course you could ward when you're sieging, but that's very dangerous. You could get caught out as a support and you guys might lose the fight. And that's really when you want to ward beforehand. So you want to set up this area for the siege basically. And that's a lot of what low elo fail to do is to set up areas before a siege, for a siege. Or for an objective really. Sorry, drinking water. And there's also a huge mistake that people make or supports really, is that they have maybe 3 wards or maybe 2 wards left in their inventory from side zone, and they just want a team fight. They kill 2 people, they have full map control right now, and they decide to back the regenerate, or even if they have maybe half HP left. And usually you don't want to be lazy, and you want to take that next step and see far enough and ward a area where you know your team is going to siege next. So don't back and maybe take a little more effort and ward this area to set them up beforehand, so that might be your only chance to ward them really, because that's when you have full map control of this area, because you just want team fight. So don't back if you have extra wards, and if you're not maybe under 200 HP, go ward. Go set up an area for your team. Sorry, I sound like I'm out of breath, but really I'm not. I'm breathing just fine. And yeah, so warding is really knowing when to ward. And you want to be aware of what's going on with your team right now. Like if your team is behind, and if they like to siege, if the enemy team is going to siege because they're ahead, or they have map control, yada yada yada. And there are usually certain play styles that teams have as a team. Some are very some are rather passive. They only push to here. Um, they would be farming lane. They would only be pushing to here, and be afraid to go into this jungle. Usually when that happens, it's because of two reasons. One is that they're pussies, or another is that they don't have enough vision right here to go far enough to push. They don't feel safe, basically. And when I switch to other roles as a support main, I usually have this sense of insecurity when my support is not warding good enough. And that's kind of when you know if you're warding good enough, or um, if your support is doing a good job, is to feel safe to go to places or do things. Oop. Alright. And or your team can be very aggressive and do the whole Mexican standoff, which I hate. It's very, very stupid. Like when sometimes with the Mexican standoff mid just all game, and there would be like 3 outer towers up here and 3 left right here. And there would be like no towers here, and they're gonna be like, oh, let's siege mid. And sieging mid is honestly, I'm not gonna lie, is the easiest way for people to group. So that's, I guess, is sort of understandable, but I absolutely hate it when it happens. Good thing I'm not there anymore. I'm not at that elo anymore. So anyway, so your team might do the Mexican standoff, the classic. They're sieging mid, they're having fun poking, back and forth and stuff. And that's when you want, so if you know your team likes to do that kind of thing, you want to war around this general area, like around mid, basically, this whole circle before your team sieges, because you know your team's play style already. So that's helpful, and you don't need to war this area or this area because they're not gonna go here or here. So this vision is pretty useless. So what else did I not cover? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So set up an area for a siege or to contest objectives. People do have the awareness to set up areas like Dragon or Baron, but they often fail to set up an area for sieging, which is actually pretty huge. Is a huge part of the game as well. And just make sure you predict where your team is going, or just make calls basically with what is happening in the game. And usually, vision can help you win games pretty easily or get towers. People misunderstand how easy it is to get a tower, or especially outer turrets if you rotate well. So if just ask one of your teammate to push mid and the other to push bot, and then you rotate through the jungle. And if it's warded, it's gonna be a really, really easy and safe rotation, and you can get this tower like pretty easily. And that's gone. And doesn't take all that much effort. You don't have to force a fight. You don't have to waste, teammates for it. And so yeah, thanks for listening, and I hope you learned something from here.